And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined on this fine Monday night. Is it Monday? It is
Yeah, it's
Monday,
still. I
right?
think it's still Monday where you are too.
It is, yeah. Monday night, in which the Lakers beat the Charlotte Hornets 124 to 118. Got way closer than it felt like it needed to be there at the very end. Um, I I had said coming into it that I thought this was going to be one of those kind of let down, annoying wins that you walk away from and you just say, you know what, a win is a win. And that's kind of how I feel about this one. It looked like maybe they might blow them out, but then Miles Bridges and
Brandon Miller.
Brandon Miller went absolutely nuts and combined for 74 points against the Lakers here tonight. I feel like Vando would have helped against those two guys, but
I don't know, Anthony. I'm not so sure. I think Torian Prince probably did as good of a job as could be hoped for.
Yeah, I guess yeah, I guess. But obviously an audition game there for Miles Bridges, who I am happy to report to this point the Lakers haven't shown any interest in. Like one of those
balloon for them last year did not go particularly well, and so I think they may have just
I've been pleasantly surprised in like asking, hey, no chance, right? Like I don't have to worry about this. And to this point, at least, the Lakers have kept their distance. Phoenix, however, can't quite say the same thing. I also saw a report today that said that the Hornets are like negotiating, like, in like the trade talks for him, where they're like saying, no, actually, we're asking for a first round pick now for Miles Bridges. And it's just like, what are we doing? Like, what, like all around, like just the interest in him in the first place, him playing in the league right now at all, like all of this stuff just feels really, really, really gross. Like just disgusting all around. So I don't want to spend too much more time on it than that. But the Lakers did beat those guys' Hornets team, and wrapped up a 4-2 Grammy road trip, which could, like, if they didn't mess around in those first couple games, Atlanta's playing better basketball. So, that might have just been a loss to a team that had kind of figured some stuff out as they got healthier. But like that one and the Houston one, the Lakers very easily could have had like a great road trip. This one, as it is, pretty good. I would say good to pretty good. But if they like didn't take those other two games, or if they had taken them at all seriously, you're maybe looking at 5-1 or 6-0. And I just feel like this road trip was perfectly emblematic of like everything that has happened so far this season.
Yeah, and I think you missed the most important part. We have to congratulate the Lakers on graduating from fake comebacks from a couple of years ago to fake blown leads. Like that's better. They sort of faked us like they were going to blow this lead, but then they're like, no. Well, it's okay. The Hornets are like a really bad basketball team, guys. It's fine. We're gonna make just enough field goals here in the fourth. Although when Spectrum showed that graphic, in the fourth, where it's like the Hornets had more made field goals than the Lakers at that point, I was like, oh no, this is not a good omen. This is reminding me too much of like like sort of the 1.5 Russ years.
Yeah. Those just really annoying games at the very, very end where you're just like, oh, the math is just okay, cool.
This except for in those years, they would have been the team that was behind and also making less field goals.
The Hornets, I thought, like, did a lot of things that a tanking team is really good at doing that doesn't allow them to fully come back into the game, right? Like the Lakers were just walking the dog a ton, and they had possessions that would last an entire minute, right? Because the Hornets would realize after like 10 or 15 seconds of Austin just standing over the ball in the backcourt, like, oh, that's right. Whoops. And then they would go up in pressure or whatever. Or you had like late in that game, I think it was like basically the pivotal possession that really kind of finished off Charlotte here. You had Bridges was guarded by Rui, who he was torching all game long, and he calls for a pick so that he would get a switch against Anthony Davis. And AD blocks that shot. It was just like, yeah, I can kind of see why you guys have 40 losses or whatever they currently sit at. 39 losses is their number right now. So shouts to the Hornets for doing Hornets things and allowing the Lakers to get out of there with that 4-2 road trip. My question now, Harrison, is, we had a quiet first Slop day. We'll talk about why here in a second, but a 4-2 Grammy trip, no matter how you want to get into the weeds on how it happened or whatever, a 4-2 Grammy trip usually to me indicates that team is generally pretty good, right? Like teams that go on that kind of a run, you're like, okay, yeah, they are good. I think we can write down in pen now that the Lakers are capable of being a legitimately good basketball team.
Yeah, I mean, this is always sort of one of the tests of the year because they're gone for so long. It's almost always this, long East Coast trek where you're just sort of, it's like, the 3 games in 5 nights are happening all the time and, all this stuff. And so, I think the fact that they were able to close this one out with 4 wins straight after starting it out pretty unseriously, I think is also a sort of a sign for optimism that, hey, those losses were embarrassing. It really started to look with the subtweets and, LeBron and AD sitting out against Boston. It really looked like this thing was going to go the complete opposite direction for a minute there. And they were almost going to sort of pack up shop and fold in on the season. And instead, coming out with that huge Boston game, coming out playing really hard in New York, getting this game done. I thought I sort of wholeheartedly agree with you, which I don't get to say often on this podcast. I think, they've shown us that they're capable of being a good team at times. And, nights like tonight also show us that they are capable of being deeply unserious for about like 15 minutes, but
just long enough. Yeah. I mean, the obvious follow-up here is, do you think this has shown a front office that I have heard is somewhat reluctant to invest more capital into the season? And I can't believe we're asking this question again, right? How many freaking seasons in a row?
February tradition unlike any other. Do the Lakers deserve a trade as a treat?
Yeah, like do LeBron and Anthony Davis deserve more help is something that you and I ask seemingly every goddamn year. But
yeah, I find that that's just a normal sign of a high functioning NBA franchise, that they're just like publicly challenging their stars to prove they're good enough.
Always,
that they deserve help.
Yeah,
I want to hear like Matt Ishbia needs to see a little more from KD before he gives up any more assets at this deadline.
Yeah,
which actually in their case would be fair because they don't have anything left. But
yeah, I do kind of feel like that was Jerry Reinsdorf, right, back in the day with the Bulls, where it was like at the very end, like with that Last Dance team, right? And I'm not even saying Jerry Krause because I think he was just given walking orders, and Reinsdorf sucked all the time. We've gotten plenty of evidence to that point ever since.
Well, Anthony, it was obviously Krause's fault. They've had so much success since he left.
Yeah, right. The common denominator.
And they've been so spend happy, they just love spending money on the team ever since he was gone. It was just him.
Yeah. That's why like I'm covering this deadline or whatever, and the number of like other league personnel, when I ask them about like what various teams are doing and stuff, and we land on the Bulls, the number of times people were just like, they're idiots. Like I want to like relay that message to Ricky, our boy Ricky, still at SB Nation, and just be like, yeah, all of that stuff that you all the criticism that you levy against them is carried throughout the league. It turns out.
I mean, he knows. We were working on my trade rumor roundup for SBNation.com today, and one of the reports was Woj saying that the Bulls, if they're going to pry open Caruso, and maybe this transitions us into slow day of Slop talk because this was just a funny one anyway, is that they want an OG Anunoby type package for him, which like a year ago, that meant like you want like a Godfather 5 first-round pick, whatever Memphis reportedly threw at the Raptors type offer, for him. And this year means, as Ricky pointed out, wait, so they want a bad contract and like a young player that the team doesn't want to pay?
And not even a first rounder. They didn't get a first
No,
rounder.
yeah, there
for
were no
OG
draft
Anunoby.
picks in that trade. What do you mean, OG Anunoby type package? Like they.
So essentially, what that leak is saying essentially is like, yeah, we want to remain mediocre. We do not
They
want to
want
bottom.
they want a player who's been mostly bad his whole career, but is from Chicago and might play harder once he gets home. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about the slow first slop day here in a second. And I previewed kind of slop week late last week in talking about why I thought this market would develop slowly. And wouldn't you know it, that reporting has turned out true. But the thing I wanted to talk to you about though here is, like, 4-2 road trip. LeBron looked incredible in this game. 3 dunks in that first half. Anthony Davis with a triple double here. A quadruple double
He had a
isn't
triple
necessary.
double. Okay, I didn't even look at that. I
Yeah,
didn't
he
even look at the
did.
stat sheet yet. I didn't realize I was watching the game on mute. So
Yeah,
I didn't
AD
realize. I
26,
knew he was
15,
good. I
and
didn't
11.
realize he had a triple double.
Yeah, 26, 15, and 11 for Anthony Davis. Technically speaking, a quadruple double isn't out of the question for him with the way
No,
that he's
I
passing.
no joke. I looked to blocks before I looked at rebounds when I just pulled up this, or before I looked at assists. When I
Assists,
pulled
yeah.
up the stat sheet just now.
That's insane. But anyway, that's a guy that we have to convince ourselves is worth investing into.
Yeah.
but like, to seriously answer the question from our perspective, I as offensive as it is that we have to ask it, like, clearly the answer is yes, right? Like, even if the opportunity cost is a first rounder that you wouldn't be able to include in a bigger package for maybe a bigger star this upcoming offseason, I think I'm fine with that opportunity cost. I like, especially as, like, draft capital for these players continues to drop, the expected draft capital continues to drop. I think you could get a perfectly fine player with 2 first rounders if you have to over the summer.
Yeah. So, I mean, not that you're saying this. I think the answer is obviously it depends on the player. Not that you're saying that just throw it
Mhm.
away to throw it away. Like it would
Yeah.
have to be a player worthy of that. I don't know that there's like a ton of players that I'm gung ho about including a 2029 first round pick for that are available right now, which is sort of the only argument, to channel our friend Raj Shapalu. Like, even the devil needs an advocate. And so I will argue on behalf of Rob Pelinka here. Like, I think, the Lakers, I was really
That's a
hoping you were
funny
going to spit the
phrase.
line out when I said that. I think if you're the Lakers, I think the argument you would make is there's not necessarily a guy that you think is worth giving up D'Angelo Russell, given the way that he's been playing, plus a first, and maybe that is sort of more the holdup this year. It's less like LeBron and AD, show us that you're worth investing in. It's more like rest of the league, show us that you're worth investing a first round pick in, because we would really like to make this team better, but none of you are sort of meeting that price.
Yeah.
So maybe that's really.
I was reading Fisher's latest today. Jake Fisher, our friend of the show, Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports. I was reading his latest kind of roundup, and the number of guys that, like, would be useful players in years past would definitely be moved. Wouldn't even be a question that kind of a player would be moved, because that team would want the draft capital rather than not getting it whenever that player departs in whatever different way that they eventually depart. And with, I don't know how many examples of it. It was like, X team is interested in paying this player beyond this upcoming season, and Y team is really, in love with the experience of having this player there. I saw Mark Stein, and by the way, when I'm like making fun of this stuff, I'm not making fun of the reporting, because it's all out there. That's all that I have come across too. I'm saying that these teams are being idiots with that approach. And I'm sorry. Mark Stein reports today that, like, Malcolm Brogdon is, like, making the case to why they need to keep him around here moving forward, when, like,
because he wants his bird rights, and he thinks that they're going to give him that extension. He's
that.
like, if I say Portland's really great, maybe they'll pay me a bunch of money.
Yeah, but also, like, if you're Portland, he plays the same position as your 2 best players.
It makes no sense to extend him at like a big number.
None. whatsoever. Like, it doesn't make any sense to not get whatever first rounder you could possibly, or whatever draft capital you can for him, right? Same goes for Tyus Jones, how they're interested in paying Tyus Jones beyond the season, and they're expecting a first rounder for potentially a few months worth of Tyus Jones's services. And I can keep on going down the line. And actually, I think that does offer us a good segue here into that that slow first day of Slop Week, where, like, to a certain extent, and I understand why Lakers fans would be frustrated with the idea that the Lakers might only make a couple moves on the peripheries of this roster. But I'm here to tell you, and like, you guys follow my content. Like, you guys hear me talk about this team. I am not the kind of person that, it goes out of my way to, like, cape up for the Lakers organization, right? But a lot of these teams are just being really stubborn as it pertains to what they're looking to do at this deadline, or who they aren't looking to move at this deadline. And to a certain extent with the Lakers, that there's only so much that you can do. And I don't blame them for not wanting to overpay for basically everybody mentioned here. There isn't a single player on the market that I would be fine overpaying for. Not one, you know, because I, like, even like, so the best player on the market, because Mikal Bridges is not available, is DeJounte
Alex
Murray.
Caruso. Oh,
honestly, not. All right. You consider Harrison, you consider the contract. I think I would rather have Alex Caruso over DeJounte Murray. Is that a hot take? I don't think
it
that's
probably is, but I don't know that I disagree with it.
Alex Caruso is going to a partially guaranteed $9 million contract
isn't that bad. I guess that's maybe the only argument. Like, his contract is fairly reasonable. It's just,
it's like 4 years, $120 million. And he has a giant trade kicker coming up.
In the new NBA, I think as that sounds like a lot, but as the cap continues to rise and, stonks just keep going up forever because the NBA stocks are just never going to drop. It's just the money's always going to be increasing.
Yeah, right. Just ask Mark
No,
Cuban.
I mean, in seriousness, I don't think his contract is that bad. I mean, do you want my sort of galaxy brain theory for why teams are operating like this? And, I think it's that teams, maybe this isn't even that galaxy brain, teams don't actually want to re-sign these guys. They want to depress their market, and they want to re-sign them to a below market deal this summer by, and then they want to trade them for more draft picks later when more of the win now teams have more draft picks. That is the real reason why all these teams are sort of leaking that, or like saying that they want to re-sign these guys. No, we love Tyus Jones. We want to re-sign him to a totally reasonable $8 million a year deal that we will then shop for the entirety of it. Like, we just saw the Wizards do this with Coops, and it's not
literally sign him to a contract that goes down.
It descends. It's a contract that it was the most signed to be traded contract until D'Angelo Russell last year. And then the Lakers may not even trade him. And so, if I guess maybe the argument for throwing in the pick, and this is something that I've been thinking about, it's sort of the same thing, is that you get one of these guys in-house, you're able to then re-sign them using their bird rights, you're able to use the cap mechanisms to sort of exceed to keep these guys around, or, in DeJounte's case, you have someone sort of locked in. And the other sort of argument that I'd make is a little bit, it's impossible to prove right now what the Lakers could do. But, look, there's no free agency anymore. There's no real sense in keeping cap space open, even if you're the Lakers. For the most part, most of these guys re-sign for the max money possible using their bird rights, and then they force their way to another team. So you're telling me that if the Lakers, only have 2 picks versus 3, and player X is sort of trying to force their way there this summer or the next summer or whatever it may be, and they're saying, no, I'm only going to re-sign with the Lakers, or I'm only going to stay with the Lakers, I'm only waiving my no trade clause, or whatever the situation may be, they are trying to leverage their way to the Lakers. Now, this doesn't always work. It worked for Anthony Davis eventually. It didn't work on the first attempt. It did not work for Donovan Mitchell. And like, there are some guys that it has not worked out for, but for a lot of guys it has, and they've gotten to exactly to where they want to go. And so if you're able to, all these teams now are sort of, the approach in trades is, give me everything in your asset cupboard. So in some ways, you're almost better off trading a first round pick now, because you're just going to have to include that in whatever big deal you make next year, because the teams are going to say, no, you have that other thing. I'm not letting you take the win. I'm taking everything that you have.
There are so many factors.
It's like if you know you're going to
here.
get robbed, or you're going to an area where you think you're going to get robbed, like you maybe don't keep as much money in your pocket, you know?
It's not untrue of the way that a lot of these teams have managed their assets. Yeah, I think like essentially every time. So while I was writing that piece, and I hope people check it out, I'll put the link in here for those who are watching live here on Substack or on YouTube, and I guess on Twitter. But I was writing about essentially, because the intel that I had gotten to that point was that the Lakers were getting ready for essentially a pretty slow deadline here. And the people that I was talking to, like, I sensed legitimate frustration. Like, I think the Lakers know that they would like to improve this roster, but they don't want to spend $1.50 to the dollar to do so. Right. And like, say whatever you will about Austin Reeves, and say whatever you will about this being another example of like the THT thing. But I think I I do believe in Austin Reeves. I know the Lakers really believe in Austin Reeves, and they believe in him in ways that they didn't necessarily with THT. And we've seen it proven. That belief has been proven time and
And it's
time
not
and
just the
time
Lakers.
over.
Like say what you will about the pool of players this summer, but THT never got the invite to go play for Team USA that I'm aware of. It's like Austin Reeves is a good player. Now, has he been as good as last year? Has he taken the steps forward that the Lakers would hope for? Are his flaws getting exposed a little bit more with Vando? It's like, the answer to those, no, and yes, potentially. But he's still a good player on a really good value contract.
Well, I would put it this way. The Lakers essentially, like, with THT, when they were negotiating with the Raptors, it was like, no, we just want the other thing too. Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't that they wanted THT specifically. It was like, no, we want we want everything that you have when you're trading for Kyle Lowry. And in this case, I've even heard that the Hawks are willing to take like a couple assets off of the table if it meant getting Austin Reeves, right? Because that they know they can turn him into assets moving forward. Because like, I don't think an Austin Reeves, Trae Young backcourt is going to do you very much, but like, I do think that Austin has enough value out there that like at some point over the course of his contract, they know that they would be able to turn him into more stuff also. And like the Lakers essentially are sitting here saying like, no, like he is off the table for DeJounte Murray. And honestly, I get it. I would maintain the same stance.
Who's putting a player as good as him on the table for DeJounte Murray right now?
Well, that's the other thing.
Like, if I'm the Lakers, again, this wouldn't be a productive way to negotiate, but in my head, I'm saying like, I didn't force you to give up 3 first-round picks for this guy. Like, I'm sorry you got fleeced, but
right.
That's not what the market says that he's worth.
Right. Well, so the teams that have been floated in terms of like, from probably Atlanta, to drum up more of a market
begging
here.
Anyone else to get into the bidding.
Please say you're interested. It was Milwaukee who traded everything that they had for Dame Lillard, and Utah. Like, Utah isn't sending Keontae George over there.
No,
they aren't sending Lauri Markkanen over there. Like, you're talking about a top 3 player on this roster in Austin. 4 if you want to really like debate this kind of a thing. They aren't sending Walker Kessler. Like and by the way, like if they were, that deal would have been done already, right? Like
I'm convinced that Danny Ainge only like leaks interest in these targets just to drive the price up for everyone else or for the Lakers. Like, I don't think he's
specifically the Lakers.
Not necessarily just the Lakers. Like I think he's just kind of. Can I curse on this? I forgot. Are we cursing on YouTube or no? Yeah. I think he's kind of just an asshole. Like, I think like he did it to Miami actually he hates Pat Riley. So I guess, he's like, no, we want Dame. We're going to go after him. Totally. We got all these picks. Miami better put everything on the table. You know,
right.
I think he's kind of just an asshole that wants to drive the price up for everyone else and make them get fleeced.
And like, we'll see. We've seen Atlanta like sit on an asset far too long and then trade that asset for nothing. Hilariously, also to Utah.
To Danny Ainge.
So like, maybe they are just stubborn enough to like, you know, not do it or whatever. But like, again, and this is where it's been interesting. And this is where like, I don't like how far out on this limb that I currently sit, even though I've been told, even after reporting it by league personnel, like, yeah, no, this is what it seems more like. But nobody else is talking about this. Nobody else is mentioning the fact that like Atlanta is demanding Austin Reeves for DeJounte Murray, and that those talks have not gone anywhere because the Lakers are like, no. And Atlanta's like, please. And the Lakers are like, no. And Atlanta's like, pretty please with a cherry on top. And the Lakers are like, no. They just keep going back and forth.
Yeah, Atlanta's like, we'll keep playing him with Trey. Watch.
Yeah.
You don't think we'll do it? Watch us do it.
Look at us. We're winning. It's always great when a team like does their winning and then they go back to the team. It's like, see, you see what we're doing over here? You see?
We're
like,
run by the owner's kid. He lives in Los Angeles. You don't think we'll do something dumb? Watch us.
Did you see, you're not really a football guy, right? But did you see the leaking that came out of the Washington Commanders?
I did see that. That was very funny.
Like, they just hire a head coach. They just hired their head coach. It's supposed to be this momentous occasion. First head coach that new ownership hires or whatever. And rather than celebrate the fact that they got Dan Quinn, which I wouldn't celebrate much either, but like, rather than celebrate the fact that they got him, they're like, man, that guy from that offensive coordinator from freaking Detroit has been such a dickhead about all of this. And he didn't have to act. He's never going to get a job in this town with the way that he does business. And meanwhile, Dan Quinn's like, yeah, I'll take my first question over here if anybody's interested.
We
and
call
like,
that
that's
Frank
kind of
Vogel.
yes, it's so similar. But like, we were like I was, you know, in like listening to the way that Atlanta is kind of like doing this again, the rest of the league, and again, like, it's kind of like the Chicago thing that we mentioned earlier, where the rest of the league is kind of looking at Atlanta like, what are you doing? And I think everybody, but because there are so many teams that are doing it this way, I think a lot of like teams around the league are just kind of saying like, wait, is this how we're doing business now? Like, are we sure you're going to lose that guy for nothing? You just traded John Collins for a half-eaten day-old ham sandwich. Like, you're doing it again? You know,
Anthony,
and there they are.
I'm going to break some news to you. I don't think the Hawks are very well run. I don't know.
Can I hope this doesn't get aggregated because the details are somewhat fuzzy here. But as I've had it told me, like, it by some people,
this is 2748 of the podcast. Okay. But no, it's okay. I'm just making my own notes.
Yeah, just totally. But so I not like silver screen aggravates me anyway. But like we were like, I was talking to some people about those conversations and those negotiations. And apparently, like, they got far enough to where like both sides were getting ready to move on to projections. That's already out there. And then all of a sudden, ownership caught wind that, oh, you're talking to the Lakers? Don't they have that Reeves guy?
That's exactly the picture that the leaks painted, was a side that was frustrated that they had sort of gotten pretty far down the line.
Both
and then
sides were
ownership
pissed.
Came in and was like, wait, you're not getting Reeves?
Yeah. Don't you know where we're located? You know, you'd be really popular here, right? Like, you know, so that's why, like, and again, like,
you're telling me that the owner's kid who just hired like his friends to run the front office, like that's not going super well.
I think that wasn't one of the guys that he hired to be in the front office. Didn't he used to do like NBCS?
Yeah, he was a Warriors blogger. Yeah.
Shocker. This isn't working out.
Hey, hang on now. Yeah, I think if you hired just like local bloggers, people who, you know, sort of made their name covering the team, you know, in the book, I think they could be great assistant GMs if you wanted to pay them. I'm just saying. I don't. You know, any NBA teams, get at me. I will. I'm ready to be your nipple baby allegation shield.
The Shield. Yeah, I will definitely be your diversity hire. Please bring
I'm
me on
happy to
in.
be your Chaz the bartender. Anyone you want.
So anyway, that's the latest that I've heard on the Murray front, is that like both sides just kind of sitting there waiting for the other side to move off of their stances. The Lakers are absolutely not moving off of their stance. They are not going to trade Austin Reeves for DeJounte Murray. And the Hawks, look, sometimes it's as simple as ownership gives marching orders and you got to march, and so long as their ownership seems to prefer Austin, they're going to lose Murray again for, pennies on the dollar. Where, like, if you're to ask me, Harrison, and and I'm biased, obviously, but D'Angelo Russell, who's having a very good season, Jalen Hood-Schifino, a first-round draft pick, another first-round draft pick in 2029 that is almost definitely going to happen after LeBron James is no longer a Laker.
I feel like we don't have to say almost definitely.
Well, dude, did you watch him in that first half?
5 years
He was dunking on everybody. He was.
It's 5 years. He's not still going to be playing in 5 years. Come on. I mean, I have as much respect for LeBron as anyone, but like he's 39. He's not.
Imagine if that's a holdup. Imagine if that's a holdup. Like teams that are like, is there any chance you can actually go further down the line? Because did you just see what he just did right now?
Yeah. I don't know. That 2031's looking a little better now. I'm not going to lie.
The next CBA, they're going to allow you to trade like picks 20 years off into the to the distance.
The LeBron James rule.
It's like hilariously the opposite of the Ted Stepien rule, right? Who was also like a Cleveland guy. But anyway, the DeJounte thing, there isn't a ton of optimism that I have sensed in this front. And, these things change quickly, obviously. So we could wake up and their ownership kind of wakes up or whatever. But as of now, it doesn't seem like Murray is happening. The Bulls have made fewer trades than any other organization in the sport over the last, 10 years or so. I forget what exactly the stat was. And when you see their asking prices, like they're asking for like legit draft capital for Andre Drummond, Harrison, and I'm going to blow you away here. I think he would help in the proper role
over the killers the Lakers have at center. You think he could?
maybe just maybe, but they're asking for like legitimate, draft capital for this guy, and he's barely making money over the minimum. He's like a historic buyout candidate. Like it and
he's
again,
taking a
like
buyout for a lot more money than this.
Yeah, and no, like they're probably gonna hold on to him and not get anything for him either. And it's just like the point of talking about all of this is, normally day one on Slop Week is where these teams start to come off of their stances, and we've seen some of it. Like we've seen a minor drop, but like not nearly enough. Like the conversations
we saw the
that
Nets
I've heard
publicly go from we want 2 firsts for DFS to like if you have second rounders, like we'll think about it.
Maybe. Though again, Jake Fisher is continuing to report that they're expecting a first rounder and a good player, an actual NBA role player now for him. And like, to the extent that the Lakers can do anything, if their hands are tied by the way that the market is shaping up, then I don't really know what we can plausibly expect of them. And, I'm somebody who wants them to make a move. I personally would love, especially with the Vanderbilt injury, and we can, I guess, touch on that here in a second as well. But like, with Vanderbilt potentially out for the year, you probably need Dorian Finney-Smith more than you need an upgrade from D'Angelo Russell to DeJounte Murray anyway. So, like, I think that is kind of I think Murray is still technically their priority, the Lakers' priority, but I do think that they are spending a lot more time internally talking about Dorian Finney-Smith now, because that situation might actually get updated. They might get new information on that front. Um, and you know what? I think that's the smart path forward here. I personally, who would you rather have, Harrison? Like, if you had to, because essentially you're going to be trading pieces from the same offer for those two players, right? Whether it's D'Angelo Russell, whether it's a 29 pick, whatever, what have you, you are, there's opportunity cost in bringing in those guys, and the opportunity cost is likely the other guy. Who would you rather have, Finney-Smith or DeJounte Murray?
So I would rather go after Finney-Smith, but not because I think he's like a better player or anything, obviously. I just think that he's sort of what the Lakers need more. And I just tried it in the trade machine while you were talking. DFS for Gabe Vincent works in the trade machine. That's a legal trade.
DFS
you don't have to give up D'Angelo Russell.
Think. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, if the cost of that is like a couple seconds, and the Lakers have extras from the Clippers from that trade they made last year, and you can get in there for that. I mean, I sort of am still I think somebody will probably make a better offer than Gabe Vincent in like a couple seconds for him. But if they aren't, then I'd certainly be more interested in that. And then you still have all the picks to play with. Like, to me, he's just not worth a first.
Yeah, I'd go like, I mean, it depends on how much protection they're willing to put on it, and how, like,
I guess that does change things. Yeah.
What the result of the protection would be, right? Like, one of my favorite reports right now is
if you could lottery protect it, then I think that I'd be interested. But I don't think that if you're the Nets, I don't know why you do that.
I mean, because it's still a first, and it can translate into multiple seconds.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. Well, but that's the thing, though, right? Is that, like, my favorite report right now, or leak from Seller X, is, Detroit turned down multiple first rounders for Bojan last year. Like, why should I care?
Yeah. Yesterday's price is not today's price. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry you made that bad. Again,
sorry you were dumb last year.
It goes back to the Murray thing. It's like, I'm sorry you made this mistake, with your it's sort of in the way that you negotiated.
Exactly. Like this here, right? The Nets rejected 2 firsts for Dorian Finney-Smith. Okay.
All right, bro. I wouldn't have done that, but good for you, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, also, the funny thing about those kinds of reports, right, is that it ignores not all first rounders are the same, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you might be turning down 2 first rounders, but if both of those two first rounders are both like top 25 protected, then are they really?
Say one of them is top 28 protected. It only conveyed if it was the 29th or 30th pick, but I guess it is technically 2 firsts.
Right. And so, like, that's like, they try to reset the market, and they're trying to drum up more of a market to get back to the good old days, back when you could get 73 first rounders for Rudy Gobert.
Still have their picks.
Yeah. But those days are gone, like, and yeah, you could hold on to these guys, but there's also risk involved with holding on to them, right? Like,
what? Another part of sort of my theory and thought process on why teams are trying to sort of like ask for so much and being unreasonable is you can always come down from your price later. But right now, the other thing is the Thunder might be buyers, and they have like every single first round pick basically. And so you don't want to leak that, like, oh, our guy's only 2 first round picks, and Sam Presti's like, okay, I'll take him. When you think that maybe you could get, or maybe you think that you could get 2 firsts from him, but you don't think that you could get it from anywhere else. And it's like, okay, if he thinks that's the price, then he'll sort of put it on the table.
What's funny, though, is that, like, there's actually some of that going on where everybody's just kind of like looking at OKC and waiting for them, because they know eventually those picks are going to have to be moved. There are literally not enough spots on a roster for them to draft all of those players. So either they're going to be trading some of this current crop of clearly very good NBA player, or eventually they're going to have to, overpay because they have so many of these picks. And the rest of the league is kind of like looking over there like, I mean, can you do something so that threat no longer weighs in the balance? It's kind of like what the league has done historically with, in order to blackmail cities into, forcing them to pay for new buildings and renovations and stuff, is like, hey, Seattle sitting right there. Look at Vegas. They want a
Yeah.
team, and if you don't pay up, those cities are ready to take on that team happily. And I think all of these sellers right now are like, you got to give up every pick that you have at your disposal, because look at what OKC could possibly do, even though everybody knows Sam Presti has a pick fetish. So like there's not
No, I mean,
really much.
historically, what they're going to do is they're going to trade their sixth man of the year for who will later become an MVP and get sort of like, some picks back.
Yeah, right. Who would that be? Would it be Kason? Be Kason or
Yeah.
like you say, you're not wrong, Harrison. They are going to have to start either trading those picks for future picks, I guess, in order to not mess up this roster, or they can have to mess up the roster. And that's and so like I don't know. So point being, you're unlikely to get him for seconds. I actually think the point is that you might, like usually at these deadlines, you do have to, these teams who don't want to lose these guys for nothing, will come off of those prices. Or they just, I guess, I guess Finney-Smith is under contract again next year and he becomes expiring.
Yeah, he's under contract for 2 more years. So, I mean, they can get away with that stance for now. But, I mean, again, you run into the risk. The flip side of that is the less years a guy's under contract, the less you're going to get for him. And so, like you may have to come down to what the prices were, or closer to what the offers were this year to move him next year, because the team's not getting him for a playoff run.
Or you have a Bojan situation where, for whatever reason, the player takes a step back, and now all of a sudden there are fewer teams interested in a diminished player. Bojan hasn't been as good this year as he was last year, and so there are fewer teams interested in Bojan. So
yeah, well, and they need him to avoid. They need him to make sure that they win at least 10 games. They need.
I don't know. I put the link in here, and I could, I guess, run through some of the other factors here. You have the flat lottery odds, you have the play-in tournament, you have owners looking at that play-in game, right? That is a game of playoff revenue, essentially. And a lot of these owners, like, they aren't going to selling parts that might help you get to one of those games until they know for certain that they aren't going to be in it. So I think what you're going to have, and this is what I predicted in that piece, is which is free, by the way. It's not paywalled anymore, so you guys can all go and read it. It gets into the weeds and stuff. I promise I try to keep it light, but essentially my prediction is that a lot of these teams are going to wait until the very, 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 very end, and then you'll get a flurry of moves right there at the right coming up against that deadline. And in which case, for the Lakers, it's kind of nice for them that they have 2 days off between now and that deadline. They can just fully focus on this. They don't have to hold guys out of games between now and then. They can have these conversations. They won't be on the road, right? So LeBron can come home, and if he and Pelinka want to sit down, because one factor here, Harrison, that we haven't talked about yet, and I don't think I've seen talked about quite enough yet, is the fact that LeBron does have that player option this upcoming summer. And no, I don't think he's in the business of foregoing $51 million in salary, but I also do think that like he might have a breaking point where he's just like, yeah, do what you want to do. I'll let you know about my decision. And if that's how he's going to feel about it, do you feel confident, if you're the Lakers, in giving up that 29 first rounder, not knowing that it would convince LeBron to stick around for that player option? I don't know, and
it does feel a little bit like his last year with the Caps, where whatever that pick was, I think it ultimately became Colin Sexton. They didn't want to put it on the table because they're like, no, we don't know if you're going to be here next year. We're not giving this up, and
yeah, I mean, and that's how.
And for the Lakers, like, yeah, we don't know that you're going to be here in 2029. So we're not sure about giving this up.
Well, I mean, that's not. I can't believe it's even like on the table. Like,
yeah,
like it's even like kind of remotely on the table that he might be there in 2029. He might still be better than like 60% of the league at 45. I don't know. Yeah. I wouldn't bet against him.
I mean, I think he could do it. It's like one game a week, he's.
It's basically what Embiid plays. But yeah, I like, but like I look at all of everything that's going on here, and while it is kind of a bummer, like I had somebody say, I really appreciated all of your intel throughout this trade deadline, but I wish you had better news to give us. I agree, man. I wish these teams weren't stupid. I wish it was as simple as me being able to hop on here and say that I thought the Lakers were being stupid. But I actually think that they've handled this quite well. I actually think what they're doing here is actually pretty smart when you consider the high asking prices, when you consider how many teams are being dumb, and when you consider the fact that like what they do doesn't guarantee you LeBron opting into that player option this upcoming summer. There's a lot
No,
of
the
flirting that
access
he did with
changed you. You're not willing to criticize the Lakers. This is unbelievable.
That's it.
I don't. This is not the Anthony Irwin I signed up for. I have to be the negative one now. This is BS.
Wait, you don't honestly disagree?
No, but
all right. There's two more things that I wanted to hit on before we get out of here. One being the Jared Vanderbilt update. So the Lakers tweeted out today that Jared Vanderbilt is going to be reevaluated in 3 to 4 weeks, which a lot of folks took as an opportunity to dunk on the reporting to this point, which has not been that optimistic about Jared Vanderbilt and the rest of his season. I said over the weekend, stand by it, that there are people within the walls there at the Lakers facility who are preparing for him to not be available for the rest of the year. I have heard that it has affected their approach to this trade deadline, where they do realize, like those who believe that this season can be salvaged, think that the Lakers should focus more on somebody like Dorian Finney-Smith than they were previously on DeJounte Murray. And none of that, to me, to my understanding, has changed even after that tweet. And Harrison, what I wanted to talk to you about is how similar that whole reevaluation cycle is to Kendrick Nunn, to Gabe Vincent, right?
Yeah.
Like this idea that like they are going to reevaluate him in 3 to 4 weeks, and people taking that as optimism. And by the way, like fandom, you're going to grasp onto whatever hope that you possibly can. So I understand it. But at the end of the day, like the information that I have in front of me is that it was a serious midfoot injury. There's a lot of stuff that can go wrong in the middle of your foot. And it can be very complicated coming back from it. And the Lakers there are people who again are bracing for not having him for the rest of the year. But I don't know. Do you see any more reason for optimism based off of that tweet?
No. What do you want me to say? No, I mean, no, like not really. I don't know. I mean, it's like you already covered it. I mean, these reevaluation dates are always it's a reevaluation date. It's not a date that the guy necessarily comes back. I mean, it's possible that in 3 to 4 weeks they look at it and they're like, great, he's good to go. But how many of these have we seen where it's like 3 to 4 weeks and they're like, well, we'll have another update for you in 2 weeks?
Yeah. Yeah. Like essentially with those other guys, and this is happening later in the season, but remember with both Nunn and Vincent, right? They did the reevaluation thing. And then eventually after one of those reevaluation updates, we didn't get an update, right? Like, like at that time of like you wait a couple weeks and then you're like, wait, weren't we supposed to get an update here? And then you just never get one. And then in Vincent's case, you waited about a week and you found out that he was getting surgery, right?
Yeah.
And in Nunn's case, you waited however long you waited, and he was a Washington Wizard. So, so
no,
like,
he played games for the Lakers the next season. People forget that he actually he had like multiple like 20-minute games.
Did he? I thought he played for the Wizards. I think he had like a big dunk
after they saw him play for them. They sent him out for Rui.
Yeah, and like, look, it indicated there's a chance he does not need surgery, but like that's what. All right, here's another example of this, and I know that I just poked fun at him a second ago, and I probably shouldn't have because it is too soon. But with Joel Embiid, right? That's essentially what the Philadelphia 76ers are doing, where they're like holding off, actually, giving us the information that we all know at this point. Like they're saying there might be a flap loose in his meniscus.
Yeah, no, Anthony, it's not a tear. There is a flap, and he's not having. There's a loose flap, which is not a tear, even though every medical update says it's a tear. And it's functionally, you cannot have a loose flap without a tear. But anyway, it's a loose flap, and they're not having surgery. He's having a procedure. Okay, that could mean anything.
just like remember, Nick Nurse was like, the injury that he suffered had nothing to do with the injury that we all watched him labor through in that game. Had nothing to do with it whatsoever. Like all these guys are doing, all of these teams are doing is protecting their own asses because they showed him in letting him play the way that they did. And they're, ensuring that they can maybe survive, the rest of the season, given that they seem to have very clearly mishandled Joel Embiid's injury. And I think here with the Lakers, this is not apples to apples. It wasn't like Vanderbilt being out there put him at more risk of the injury that he suffered or whatever. But I do think that they're going to try to slow trickle this news out there.
Well, I mean, it did. Objective. I'm not saying the Lakers did anything wrong, but you have more of an injury more of a chance of suffering a basketball-related injury playing basketball than not playing basketball.
Yeah. Well, I meant I'm
not saying they did anything wrong. It's just definitionally it did up the chances. It didn't make them inevitable, but.
Well, look, man, I might develop a flap in my meniscus just sitting here talking to you. I don't know. If that is
given my
injury
history, I think I'd say it's more likely it will happen to me, but.
But also this time of year, if you're the Lakers, it makes sense to slow play this information, right? Because you don't want to appear that much more desperate in those conversations as you're trying to make up for Jared Vanderbilt's potential.
That's a great point.
So there's all kinds of reasons for them to release the information in the way that they did.
And famously, no NBA team. I love that teams do this, but it's like every other NBA team does the same thing. So they're not going to be confused by you saying this. Like they know what you're doing.
It's like the whole starters thing, right? Releasing starters only a half hour before the game, as if God, man, how are we supposed to?
Let me get back there, grind some tape real quick on this guy in the next 30 minutes.
But the funny thing is that they do that, but they never really really surprise you with the starting lineup. Where it's not like Skylar Mays is all of a sudden going to be starting for you. If you really want to throw a team off, you wait till the last second and you start Skylar Mays, right?
No, if you really want to throw a team off, you leak to Ant and then you don't change them.
Or you change your mind. I swear I'm standing by that. Shabu again, there's new reporting about the Mavs being unhappy with Luka/Kyrie. What's the percentage chance they stand still here and try a 3 first-round plan at the draft? I wouldn't give up 3 first-rounders for Kyrie.
Didn't the Lakers not want to give up 2 first-rounders for Kyrie last year?
Yeah. And also,
were they willing to include both firsts? I don't remember. It's been like a year.
And to Gary's point here, right? Not all firsts are created equal. If the Lakers have 2 post-LeBron first-rounders at their disposal, which they likely will, those are more valuable than a combination of 3 picks from most teams.
And the Lakers can sort of push it off because they're every other team thinks we're dumb. So they know they think these picks are going to be great because they think I'm going to fuck this all up after LeBron leaves. And they're wrong. I'm going to trade those picks.
The other thing that I wanted to talk about, because this is I think a topic born specifically for us. The conversation about Anthony Davis being an all-star and look at that. That was perfect. That eye roll. On point, Harrison. Very well done. Especially for our strictly listening audience.
Well, I mean, look, I try to add some value for the YouTube people. I got one button undone. I'm rolling my eyes. I'm flashing cleavage. I'm doing facial emotions. It's just I try to give the YouTubers a reason to subscribe to the Lakers Lounge on YouTube if you're not subscribed already.
Please do subscribe. So it's just such a perfectly Lakers specific topic because people know that Lakers fans are going to quote tweet those stupid, disingenuous talking points. They know that we're going to talk about them here. That's why I'm not naming anybody specifically, Amin El Hassan, about the points that were made on that front. I understand the business of this. and the business of criticizing and knocking the Lakers, because you are going to benefit from the people who like listening to the Lakers get knocked, and you're going to benefit from the hate traffic that you generate from Lakers fans who are going to dunk on that disingenuous content. But the idea that Anthony Davis, who is like somehow holding together with duct tape, some fishing string, and a ball of yarn, and even respectable Lakers defense, and the second that he isn't available, the Lakers give up 150 points regularly. The idea that he, while he's also enjoying the best passing season of his career and has clearly taken a step forward in that regard, shouldn't be an all-star, is just such a perfectly NBA Twitter topic. It is just, you know what? I respect it. Well done, everybody.
Look, Anthony, I'm going to go to bat here for the media and just say, like, you know, these West Coast games, they're on late.
That show is based out of Miami. That is fair.
You know, it's just tough. You know, I think sometimes, you know, it's or, you know, sometimes the Kings are playing at the same time as the Lakers. So you don't know that Anthony Davis is good. You know, it's just,
well, like, so this is the other thing. They're like, well, why do the Lakers get 2 all-stars here and the Kings get none? Because
look at the rest of their roster. That's why. Like,
well, also, even more importantly, one of them was named by fans.
Yeah.
Like, LeBron is a fan vote guy.
Yeah.
Like, there are more Lakers fans. That's why, you idiots. Like, and by the way, you aren't idiots. Like, these people who are doing this are smart. They know that we're going to react the way that we are.
I don't understand how you could watch the sport of basketball and come to the conclusion that De'Aaron Fox or Domantas Sabonis were better than Anthony Davis.
Yeah, especially Sabonis. We watched what freaking Kevon.
Yeah, I get, you know, Fox. Yeah, we all not watch the Kings without Fox earlier this year?
Yeah, well, you had Sabonis, like, just recently got out of the locker that Kevon Looney stuffed him in last year's postseason. Like, yeah, it kind of matters, man. Like,
Anthony Davis is a clown. He doesn't want to play center. Domantas Sabonis is a man. He plays center badly on defense.
Meanwhile, AD is
why can't Anthony Davis just man up, play center 100% of the minutes, and just let guys walk to the rim? I don't understand. It's just
well, don't forget all of the games that Sabonis meaninglessly fouls out of, because, like, he can't play defense without fouling. He can't play offense without running into people.
That's anti-Kings bias, okay?
I don't know. I would.
Anthony Davis would foul out all the time if he played for the Kings.
It's true. Clearly it's true. The Lakers
You'd also
tonight
be the best
shot
player in Kings franchise history, but you know,
unfortunately this win that the Lakers had tonight does not count. The Lakers shot 19 free throws to the Charlotte Hornets 14. So look, you know, points are being made, Harrison. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. If you took away those 5 free throws, the Lakers would have only won by one.
Yeah. But like
I forgot, it got really close at the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Harrison, this might
not real close. All right. For you. Still would have won just by 1 point. Would have been a little closer. That's my favorite thing to do after these games where people complain about the free throw differential, is just subtract the amount of free throws by the amount of points that they outscored them by, and they probably still outscored
they would make
them,
all of those free throws.
Yeah.
I wish, and I understand this is not
the league is just, they're so determined to rig the league for the Lakers that that is why they're in like 10th place right now.
Yeah, they would be 11th if not for it being rigged. But like, I don't know. I understand that what we do here is supposed to be entertaining, and that apparently is like the priority here, right? And like, to a certain extent, I agree, right?
I'm sorry, Lakers, you're in 9th place. Forgive me. I slided them.
There are some people whose content is incredibly, like, not disingenuine. I guess that would just make it genuine. There are people whose content is very smart and all those things, and it doesn't traffic because that host or whatever isn't as entertaining or whatever. There are platforms that, like, you know, the Libertard show knows what they're doing there. Again, all like ESPN has known what they have been doing there for years, Remember back when they were like ranking Kobe outside of like the top 30 in those like
I mean,
preseason
Anthony
lists
knows
and
what he's
stuff.
doing right here. He's going to put up a YouTube short of this. That's just why the clown fraud media doesn't properly respect Anthony Davis making the All-Star game.
Exactly. Lamestream media doesn't, you know, but like, I don't know. I found myself, like more annoyed at myself that I didn't see this coming with the AD, like in the All-Star conversation about it. Like I thought for sure I gave people enough credit that they wouldn't do this, and then was like very, very wrong.
And I know that for All-Star, you're not supposed to take the playoffs into account and stuff like that, but we all watched the playoffs last year. Who do you think was more valuable? Was it AD or was it Domantas Sabonis? Like, I don't know.
We've all watched basketball this season.
Yeah.
Who is more valuable, Anthony Davis or Domantas Sabonis? It's not close to me. Like, it's one guy is like really good offensively and really bad defensively. The other guy this year has been really good offensively and really good defensively, like best on the planet, good defensively. And no, we're sitting here.
Anthony,
also, Domantas
Sabonis is Domantas Sabonis is such an elite offensive one-way force that he is averaging 5 less points per game than Anthony Davis.
How about rebounds? Is he out rebounding Anthony Davis?
Yes. Yeah.
By
0.8.
Oof, man. Well, in that case, I take back everything I said.
Never mind. Sorry. Yeah.
How about assists? He probably has. Well, no, I think AD has been passing the ball pretty well this year, so it might not be that big of a gap. Is it like 4 or 5?
It's 4.3. I mean, I think Anthony, it's clearly got to be that the Kings have a way better record, and you know they are in 5th place. The Lakers are in 9th place. Those jokers, they have 2 whole less wins than the Kings.
Sabonis,
winning was supposed to matter. Unbelievable.
How's the Sabonis? How is he doing in the stocks department?
Well, Anthony, I got some bad news for the Sabonis fans in that I did not have that detailed of stats pulled up. But
is Sabonis averaging a total stock per game?
Yes, he is. He is averaging 1.3 stocks.
Woo! All right, now Anthony Davis is averaging, I would imagine, double that.
Yeah, he's averaging 3.5.
Almost triple. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, that I like it was a topic that I wanted to end on because we could sit here and beat our chests as like the Lakers homers and stuff. And I figured
I'm excited
our
for
channel would
like Kings fans to send me death threats over that tomorrow or whatever it may be. I guess just cut this part off when you post this clip.
No, I'm going to post this specifically. All right, that I think is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge. The Lakers beat the Charlotte Hornets 124-118. I am still told that it is a relatively quiet deadline that they are preparing for as of right now, but that can always change in a matter of minutes. And if it does, I will be right here back in the lounge to break that down and update you given what I know about that situation when I know it. And I would love nothing more than for, me to be able to like hop on here and do one of those breaking news type shows. But it just doesn't appear as if that is in the cards right now. But until the next time you guys hear from us, that was Harrison Fagan of SB Nation. I am Anthony Irwin. This has been the Lakers Lounge, and we will talk to you tomorrow.